The Gingerbread Door. A magical door made of gingerbread appeared on the kitchen wall, and what was behind it was sweeter than any treat. The kitchen of the O'Malley house on any normal day was a place of happy, delicious, and slightly chaotic energy. But on Christmas Eve, it was the undisputed, magical, and fragrant heart of the entire world. Mrs. O'Malley, a woman whose laugh was as warm and as sweet as the cookies she baked, was in her element, a benevolent queen presiding over a kingdom of flour, sugar, and spice. The air was a thick, warm, and intoxicating perfume of melting butter, of bubbling caramel, of the sharp, sweet tang of citrus peel, and most of all of the rich, dark, and spicy scent of gingerbread. Trays of gingerbread men, their raisin eyes and jaunty, icing smiles, all slightly different, cooled on every available surface. A magnificent and slightly lopsided gingerbread house, its roof heavy with a thick, sugary snow, stood as a proud, edible centerpiece on the large wooden kitchen table. At the heart of this sweet, fragrant, and festive chaos was a 10-year-old boy named Finn. He was his mother's official and very serious apprentice. His job was to be the taster of the batter, the decorator of the cookies, and the guardian of the gingerbread house against the marauding, sticky fingers of his younger siblings. He was a boy with a wild thatch of red hair, a constellation of freckles across his nose, and a spirit that was full of a deep and unwavering belief in the everyday magic of the world. And for Finn, the kitchen on Christmas Eve was the most magical place on earth. Characters wish or struggle, the heart's winter, but this Christmas Eve, amidst all the joy and the sweetness, a small, quiet, and unfamiliar shadow had fallen over Finn's own usually bright heart. His best friend, a boy named Daniel, who lived next door, had moved away in the autumn. His family had fallen on hard times, and they had been forced to leave their home and move to a distant, unfamiliar city, a place of gray concrete buildings and no backyards. The silence from the house next door was a constant quiet ache in Finn's life. He missed the sound of Daniel's laugh, the shared secret language of their adventures, the comfortable, easy presence of a friend who understood him completely. He had sent Daniel a letter, but he had not heard back, and he imagined his friend, on this most magical of nights, in a small, sad, and unfamiliar apartment, with no smell of gingerbread, no warmth of a familiar kitchen, no magic. As Finn sat at the table, carefully applying a gumdrop chimney to the gingerbread house, a deep and heartfelt wish formed in his heart. It was not a wish for a new toy or for a white Christmas. He wished, with all the pure and powerful longing of a lonely boy, that he could share this magic with his friend. He wished he could send a piece of this warm, fragrant, and joyful kitchen, a piece of his own happy and gingerbread-scented heart, to Daniel, to remind him that he was not forgotten, that he was still loved, that the magic of their friendship was not broken. The magical encounter, a spark of wonder. Late that night, long after the last of the cookies had been decorated and his younger siblings had been tucked, full of sugar and excitement, into their beds, Finn crept back down to the kitchen. The house was quiet, the only sound the soft, rhythmic ticking of the old grandfather clock in the hall and the gentle, contented sigh of the dying embers in the hearth. The kitchen, lit only by the soft, silvery glow of the moon through the window, was a place of fragrant, sleeping shadows. He had come for one last secret taste of a gingerbread man. As he reached for the cookie jar, a new and impossible scent cut through the familiar spicy air. It was the scent of gingerbread, yes, but it was stronger, warmer, and infused with a strange, magical, and almost electric energy, a scent of something ancient and powerful and alive. He turned, and his breath caught in his throat. There, on the plain plaster wall of the kitchen, a wall that had, just hours before, held nothing but a calendar and a grocery list, was a door. It was not a normal door. It was a small, perfect, and beautifully arched door, about half his height, and it was made entirely and impossibly of rich, dark, and fragrant gingerbread. Its frame was decorated with an intricate, swirling filigree of pure, white, royal icing. Its doorknob was a single, large, and luminously red gumdrop that seemed to glow with a soft, internal, and welcoming light. Finn stared, his heart a wild, frantic, and joyful drum against his ribs. He knew, with an absolute and unquestioning certainty, what this was. It was an answer. It was a path. It was the magic he had been wishing for, made real and delicious, right here in the heart of his own familiar kitchen. The transformation, the gift within. For a moment, he was paralyzed by the sheer, beautiful impossibility of it all. But the warm, magical, and unbelievably delicious scent that was wafting from under the gingerbread door was a powerful and irresistible invitation. With a trembling and slightly sticky hand, he reached out and turned the glowing gumdrop doorknob. The door swung open, not with a creak of hinges, but with a soft, crumbling, and sugary sigh, and the light that spilled out was not the bright white light of a lamp, but a warm, soft, and deeply golden glow, the color of honey and melted butter, and the air that washed over him was the most beautiful, wonderful, and joyful scent he had ever smelled. He peeked inside. It was not a room. It was a world, a place where the hills were made of soft, green, mint-flavored icing, where the trees were twisted sticks of licorice with fluffy, pink cotton candy leaves, and where a river of thick, dark, and bubbling chocolate flowed lazily through the landscape. And in the center of this beautiful, edible, and magical world, there was a small, cozy-looking house, an exact, perfect replica of the gingerbread house that was sitting on his own kitchen table. A single, powerful, and joyful thought filled his mind. Daniel. He did not hesitate. He ran to the table and, with a gentle and reverent care, he picked up the magnificent and slightly lopsided gingerbread house, his mother's masterpiece. Holding it carefully in both hands, he turned back to the magical open door. He took a deep breath, a breath that was full of the scent of 100 different, delicious, and impossible things, and he stepped through. He was in a place where kindness was the only rule, where generosity was the very air you breathed. He walked across a field of soft, crumbly shortbread sand, his destination the small, perfect, and deeply familiar gingerbread house. He knew with a deep and magical certainty that this was where he would find his friend. He placed the gingerbread house he was carrying on the doorstep of the house in front of him, a perfect, magical, and heartfelt gift. And as he did, the door of that house opened, and there stood Daniel, his face not sad and lonely, but filled with a bright, joyful, and completely unsurprised wonder. "I knew you'd find a way, Finn," he said, his smile as bright and as warm as any Christmas light. "I knew you wouldn't forget." The ending, the whisper of Christmas. They did not stay long. They knew this was a borrowed magical moment, They shared a single perfect and delicious gumdrop from the chimney of the house, a taste of a friendship that was as sweet and as magical as the world around them. And then Finn knew it was time to go. He walked back through the beautiful edible world, through the gingerbread door, and back into his own familiar and now even more magical kitchen. He turned, and he watched as the gingerbread door slowly, gently, and deliciously faded, the icing filigree dissolving, the gumdrop doorknob losing its light, until the wall was once again just a plain plaster wall, holding a calendar and a grocery list. The moment was over, but the magic and the memory remained. He went back up to his bed, his heart full of a quiet, peaceful, and deeply contented joy. The next morning, when his mother came into the kitchen, she noticed something strange. The magnificent gingerbread house, her Christmas Eve masterpiece, was gone from the table, but in its place, sitting in the very center, was a single, perfect, and luminously red gumdrop, a small, sweet, and magical thank you note from a world that was sweeter than any treat. The narrator reflects that the deepest wish of a loving heart is a powerful and a creative magic. It can build a bridge where there is no road, it can send a message that has no words, and it can, on the most magical of nights, open a door where there was only a wall. For the magic of true friendship is a secret, delicious, and beautiful recipe, a recipe that can turn an ordinary kitchen into the very heart of the world, and can build a path made of pure sweetness and love that can connect two friends, no matter how far apart they may be. And that's how Christmas found its way into another heart.